Hi, everyone. It's France-Luce Benson. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Fountain Theater, if you don't know me. And I'm very excited about this Breaking It Down series tonight. As you know, we are in production with an Octoroon by Branden Jacobs-Jenkins. It's currently running at the Fountain Theater's brand new outdoor theater. We have one weekend left, so if you haven't seen it, get your ticket ASAP. We might be sold out, but hopefully you'll get a chance to see it. And tonight I'm talking to Jennifer Gutierrez from the Museum of Social Justice and two artists and members of the Black Lives Matter chapter in Los Angeles who were involved with this exhibit, the New Black City exhibit, which premiered at the Museum of Social Justice. And we at the Fountain Theater are so honored. We're going to be having some of the artists from the New Black City exhibit at the theater on September 17th. They'll be displaying their work and you can come out and purchase their work. It is really stunning. So even if you're not coming to see the show, please come out on September 17th to support these artists. So tonight I have Jennifer Gutierrez from the Museum of Social Justice, and I have Phillip Jackson, who is a filmmaker, and he is also the co-lead of the Arts and Culture Committee at the Black Lives Matter in Los Angeles. And I have Tynacity, AKA That DJ, who is an open format DJ and media personality. She is the executive producer of Safe and Sound, Music and More. And she's also is on the production team for the hit show Blind Spotting on Stars. Thank you all so much for taking some time out tonight to talk to me. And I just want to start with you, Jennifer. First of all, for people who have never been to the Museum of Social Justice or don't know about it, if you can just talk a little bit about the Museum of Social Justice, where it is, what it is, why people should go.
Sure, thanks, France-Luce. So the Museum of Social Justice is on Olvera Street in downtown Los Angeles. We had our first exhibit in 2013. So since then, we've been doing exhibitions on various social justice topics. Some of them are historical, some of them are more current. And we do a variety of, some of them are photographs on the wall kind of thing. Some of them are artists expressing their take on different social justice topics. We're open Thursday through Sunday, and we'd love to have you come see us any of those times. You can look us on the web as well, museumofsocialjustice.org.
Great. And so can you talk a little bit about the New Black City exhibit, the genesis of the exhibit, and when it started and where it is now? I believe the exhibit is no longer at the Museum of Social Justice, but it's traveling. Like, where can people see the work? So just a little bit about that exhibit.
Yeah, so it was up outdoors at the Pueblo Historic Monument, like out in front of the museum in May and June of this year. And how it started is just a philosophy of the museum is that we don't do exhibitions on topics without the people that are represented in that topic. So whatever that topic is, we have to reach out to those folk and invite them to be part of curating and planning the exhibition. So obviously in 2020, the most relevant topic that was going on everywhere in the country, but including in Los Angeles, was all the racial justice actions that were happening following the murder of George Floyd. And one of our board members, who's a historian and a photographer, had been attending all of the racial justice protests, as many of us had, but he had been taking photographs. Another of our board members thought, oh, we should exhibit some of his photographs, but of course, we're not going to just do that. So we reached out to Black Lives Matter LA to see if they were interested in collaborating with us on an exhibition. And so that's really how it started. We met with the Arts and Culture Committee, kind of got to know each other, and spent several months talking about what an exhibition might look like. The exhibition was really curated by the Arts and Culture Committee of Black Lives Matter LA, so they can tell you more about that process. But it was outdoors for about 4 weeks in downtown LA. It's all up on the Museum of Social Justice website now, so if people want to see the works, that's a good way to do it. And Phillip can tell you if the link from the exhibition is still live.
Thank you. Great. So Phillip, I assume you were part of those initial conversations and part of the team who curated the exhibit. So how did it come to be, and how did you decide which artists would be showing their work, and what was the message that you wanted to come through in the exhibit?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of there from the beginning in terms of just the initial Zoom meetings of just figuring out who was interested and who the Museum of Social Justice was, because I wasn't too familiar with them. And the kind of the team was probably about a core, I say about 6 to 7 BLM members plus a handful of folks from the Museum of Social Justice. And we really for the first month or so is really just more like, what could an exhibit be? Like, how do you encapsulate BLM and the movement, this current social movement, into an exhibit? Because that's kind of a hard thing to see when you're still very much in the forest of it all. And I think at one point someone just kind of threw out the idea of it being like about past, present, and future, and like what would that look like? And that kind of just kind of got everybody the idea rolling. And at some point, kind of just a city idea of a city, like what would a new city look like? What, because that's what we're kind of always pushing is the LA looks like this one way, and currently we know it can be such a better city. So what does that look like? We're always challenge people to reimagine, you know, what does a world without police looks like? Well, a world without jails, and reinvesting that into the community. And so kind of this whole idea of a city came up, and New Black City kind of was just a name that kind of stuck. Someone threw out there and it kind of stuck, and we kind of said, yeah, New Black City, that kind of works. And we just started reaching out to throughout our networks of artists. We put a big call out on our social medias and just say, hey, Black artists, this is what we're imagining. What does that make you feel? What does that reflect to you? Do you have work that hits that kind of that tone? And then we kind of just ingested all this stuff from people from across the country and then the city, and really just we wanted to show as much as we could, because it's as creatives, it's hard to find a space to show your creativity. Mm-hmm. So we didn't really want to be a gatekeeper in that sense. So we just wanted to show as many people's work as we could in the spaces that we had.
And so the artists that were part of the exhibit are from all over the country?
Mm-hmm. A lot of California based, whether it's from LA or the Bay. But yeah, we had several people submit digital art who weren't in the LA at all, who saw our call out on social medias and like, hey, this is cool. This is something I can send you. And we're like, dope, let's bring it all.
And were there any artists that really kind of blew you away? I'm sure, I mean, I know all of them were amazing, but like, what were some of the pieces or some of the things that really sort of got you all excited and said, oh my God, this artist needs to be part of this?
I think the bigger surprises were after the exhibit was up. In my wildest dreams was that this exhibit would change every day, whether it was different protest signs that we put up or different artwork that we switched around or moved around, or between the different performers who were performing on the weekends. I didn't want it to be the same exhibit. I wanted a reason for people to come back, because if we're going to be up for a month, I wanted people who came the first week, coming the last week, like, oh, this is something different. I didn't see this, or I didn't notice this. And so as we were kind of getting up and about in a physical space, LA was kind of opening up. A lot of COVID shots were coming out and all that. So people were kind of a little more adventurous. And we had a lot of artists come through and just say, hey, this is cool. Can I help put my art in this place? And so we had a lot of artists kind of that we weren't aware of before opening submit artwork and bring artwork or make artwork on the spot, which was really amazing.
I love that. That's very theatrical. I mean, that's what I love about theater is, you know, you can go to see a play and if it's live, every time you see it, it's really something new. It's just constantly evolving. I love that. And so Tynacity, were you did you perform as part of the exhibit? How were you involved in the exhibit?
I was responsible for the live performance stage that we had called New Black City Live. So it took place over the course of the weekend days of the exhibit. So every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we would have a series of performances, anything that spanned from singing to DJ sets to circus performances
Oh,
and
wow.
dance troops. We would have that on that stage. We had an artist called for entry. We clarified the purpose of the exhibit to ensure that every artist or group that was coming to the stage was in alignment with the mission of New Black City, which is to imagine a world of nonviolence without police, a safe haven for Black people, which is a really sacred mission to have if you're having an art exhibition. What resulted in the artist call for entry were a collection of about 30 artists that came, and there were performers that weren't scheduled that ended up coming out of special invitation during our grand opening and closing ceremonies where we had our traditional set of libations and calling on the ancestors. And so it was a really great, great's not the word to really surmise it, but the experience in which I had taking lead in this role, I very much cherish. I did not expect it to be so impactful. I didn't really have any expectations. I just wanted to make sure that the performance stage was something that was unique and that would be healing and interactive, especially.
And I'm sorry.
It was just that for me. So I'm thankful for that. Thank you.
Yeah. And what was the impact? Like, what did you notice with audiences and people who came to see the exhibit? Did you get feedback? What were the reactions?
We had some expected yet unexpected resistance from the city and county with regard to how we would conduct the live performances during the cusp of reopening. The rules for the type of live event that we were having were not adequately updated. And so we were basically told the day before we opened that we could not have a live audience. And it caused a series of uncomfortable interactions with some of the security and city and county staff that would come through. We noticed that there was a level of, I would say uneven application of the rules. I'm called hypocritical, but I'll just say uneven. And that came in the form of during our opening weekend. We had a plan for, to space everybody out before that random mandate came. So we are conducting this, we were planning to live stream anyway, but we were conducting live streams without an audience. We saw that there was another event that was happening right across in the same plaza from us, and they had a stage with a DJ and seats that were 6 feet apart. And it was just really interesting that event could have the things that we weren't having, and for the significance of what our exhibit was about. I think there's just a tendency for when BLM stands up and rises to the occasion for there to be resistance, and that's the byproduct. So we had civil disobedience in that regard. We wanted to make sure that we were interactive with the Pueblo community, because it is important for the people that are there, especially that are there like every day or every week, to know like why that exhibit was coming around in their area, which so happens to be where Los Angeles was founded. There's a lot of history between Black and Brown communities, and so we saw the impact of increasing crowd sizes week by week as people start to see that we have performers. There's also a lot of just interaction with the existing dance groups that are out there. There's a DJ that plays out there, Tony, and DJ Tony has so many loving families that are just dancing, and we were able to, have them not only witness the exhibition, but be a part of it through, just sharing the impact of, what Black people mean to like music that's, traditionally Latin even. We really emphasize that Blackness is everywhere. And because we were able to do that in a setting and in so many different ways, that just created a really great impact. I think by the end of the exhibition, we had over 6,000 visitors.
Wow.
So through a lot of challenges, we triumphed. Thankful for that.
I want to say that Tynacity is the queen of uncomfortable conversations. She is really great at like speaking her truth respectfully and like holding the line and just moving forward with what she knows is best. And that worked beautifully, as she said, with that kind of some of that resistance we were getting from the city and county, because we just moved forward, led by Tynacity, and it all worked out. And it not only all worked out, it all worked out beautifully, because Olvera Street is typically a Mexican-American, Latinx kind of attraction, right, in downtown LA. Like that's the food you get there. That's, there's the museums, et cetera. Like that's kind of the focus. And it was really important for that community to see this New Black City exhibition. And because of the way that the live performances were conducted, because of the like really Tynacity's open personality and invitational personality, there was a lot of great interactions that happened between that community that's always there anyway, and the exhibition and the live aspects of it in particular. That was really a fabulous result of New Black City Live.
That's amazing. That actually leads me to a question I wanted to ask all of you, really, but I'll start with Phillip, because I know that you're also a filmmaker and work in various mediums. And how does your work as an activist inform your work as an artist and vice versa? Like, what are the intersections?
I would definitely say I was a creative before I was a organizer or activist in that sense. I've been in LA for about probably 4 years before I joined officially BLM LA. I've gone through like the Occupy movement while I was in Chicago, and seeing kind of just the history of rising and falls of social groups and movements. I kind of had realized BLM LA was really sticking around for good. It wasn't just a flash in the pan. Melina Abdullah always says we're making a movement, not a moment. And I kind of had realized, as from an observer, like, well, I don't see a lot of media content, video content from all the things that they're doing from their perspective. I was like, well, I need somewhere to help just channel my energy into a healthy space. And so I was like, well, so when I showed up, I was like, I can record things and edit things together, and here's this video of this event that happened. Do you want this? And they're like, oh, this is amazing. No one's ever done this for us. I was like, oh, really? And so I kind of just got involved with just helping document the spaces that they were and the movements that they were doing, because you know, the news will show up every once in a while when something is very buzzworthy, but there's so much stuff happening that isn't necessarily, you know, 7 o'clock news buzzworthy, that is still very important to be seen and saved and put together so people can find it later. So I kind of stumbled into that space in BLMLA and just kind of using the skills and abilities that I had as a filmmaker to help just preserve and present the movement that we've done from our perspective, because it's such a big difference than from, you know, the nightly news's perspective of covering an event, when you see it from the people's perspective and the people who are really pushing the movement forward.
And how can people get involved in BLM LA or BLM in general? You know, people hear about Black Lives Matter, they know about the movement, but sometimes I wonder if people know how to get involved. I've met people who are intimidated by what that means to get involved. Like, what would you say to a young person who wants to become more politically engaged and wants to be part of this movement? What would you suggest for them?
Look in your backyard first, honestly. There's most likely a group of people who are doing things you already agree with and appreciate in your neighborhood, in your city, or your county. You know, I'm from a small town in Virginia, but there's still people doing the work. You got to find them. And then after you find them, they'll be on the web most likely, because everybody's on the internet at this point. Show up. You know, people underestimate the power of just showing up and being a presence at, you know, exhibits like New York City, or just, you know, at a meeting. Most things aren't protests and marches. There's a lot of just meetings where people are talking and figuring out how to move the things forward. So just being a presence, sharing your thoughts and opinions, and listening and learning, and is really the best way to start, because you'll meet people, you'll be able to bounce ideas off of them, you'll learn, and they'll learn from you, because no one has a PhD in like how to run a movement. It's all people volunteering their time and abilities and skills and trying to build a better tomorrow. So be a part of that.
Tynacity, how long have you been involved in BLM LA, and how did you get involved?
I joined in November of 2020, so it'll be a year and a couple of months now. I joined through providing sound system support during the Jackie Lacey Must Go event during the summer of last year. And what was unique about that was just the fact that there were people really utilizing what they're good at, you know, in their lives outside of activism to really push the movement forward. And one of the things I feel like I'm good at is bringing people together through music. And so I have been supporting a lot of different demonstrations with, you know, bringing the sound system, bringing my DJ sets out, and collaborating with some of the other people who like work in production sound to amplify the speakers, you know, Melina and the guests that BLM would have for Jackie Lacey. It provided a sense of security for people, you know, like they could hear what's going on and have the ability to like take direction as needed, because we were in a space where we were, you know, constantly, you know, just surveilled and, you know, at many points harassed by LAPD, LASD at the Hall of Injustice. And so that was how I initially, you know, so started supporting BLM directly. And, you know, from my interactions with them, I just knew that I wanted to continue working with BLM directly because of their intent on making sure that there's results, making sure that there's consistency and an awareness for the issues that we as Black folks have. not just in LA, but across the country. And it's just really important to, do this work with folks that have longevity in mind. So that's what I appreciate about being a part of BLM.
And Jennifer, I'm curious how you what was your road towards Museum of Social Justice? What was that journey for you to get to the Museum of Social Justice? Was it always part of your mission to combine art and social justice, or how did you land where you are now?
Yeah, my road was really a spiritual one. My background is I'm an ordained minister in the United Methodist Church.
Ah.
And I primarily worked as a bureaucrat actually, but but basically helping churches outreach to their communities, helping them figure out how to do whatever good that they had in mind that they wanted to do in their local community. And so I did a lot of coaching and of pastors and church leaders to do justice work, to meet their neighbors, to meet their elected officials, that sort of thing, and how to figure out how to do that work together. And so the museum actually came out of there's a Methodist church on Olvera Street, La Plaza United Methodist Church, and it was the museum came out of a struggle with the city to renew the lease because they basically stole the building back in the 50s. And kind of the church kind of came to terms with its own social justice history. They had the first integrated drinking fountain in Los Angeles in that spot, even before they built a church back in 1917. And so helping the church kind of see its own social justice history and then figure out how, if it was going to stay in this place, what it was going to do for the community. How was it going to be part of this historic place? And so that's really how the museum was born, was figuring out how to help this group of folk kind of tell their own history and tell their story, but then invite other people into that space to tell their own stories. And then it just grew from there. It just expanded from there. And I would say only in the past few years have we really moved on to integrate art more into our mission. Because people are moved by art, as you know, in ways that they're not moved by information, right? And particularly live art, live, even if it's like paint on a wall, but watching somebody paint on a wall, like being able to interact with an artist while they're creating is particularly moving to the human spirit.
It's interesting because the play, I know you saw it, Jennifer. I don't know if either of you have seen the play, in Octoroon, there is a moment where the main character, who's this Black playwright, says what he wants is for the audience to feel something. And then there's a very powerful image that he uses to do that. I don't know, before we go, I guess I'm curious, when you were creating this, Phillip and Tynacity, when you were curating and bringing these artists together, did you have something specific in mind that you wanted people to feel? Were you thinking in those terms? And if so, do you feel like you accomplished that?
You want to go first, Tynacity? Okay. I think at the end of the day, I wanted people to lose a preconceived notion that they had about the movement, because if you only hear about the movement through sound bites from the news, you really miss out on 90% of it, even more, honestly. So coming down to the space and seeing the works made by artists, how they reflect their emotions on the past, present, and future of a new Black city and how cities have affected them, and then seeing all the beautiful live artists performing week in and week out, this gives them another perspective of like, oh, I can reimagine a world differently than what I thought before. And so just giving that people that nugget, that seed of like, okay, maybe this isn't the way the world should be, or maybe the world can be this way, or the things I wish the world could be maybe aren't as crazy to think about as I thought before. So just giving people that push in the right direction is all I really wanted.
Tynacity, did you want to add to that?
I think that we went beyond, anything that we had expected this exhibition to be. I think, we all kind of like formulated an idea of, what it could be with the submissions that we received and the, placements that we were doing, like, with logistics. But what it actually turned out to be was something very spiritual. And I believe that everybody that participated also received a spiritual understanding from being a participatory aspect of the exhibit. Be able to use your talent for a purpose of raising awareness to like liberation is something that it requires a lot of like reflection. I believe like it requires it to ask yourself like, what is the connection between my art and this movement? And so because I believe like every artist was able to answer that for themselves through their performance and how they performed, and deciding like, okay, I'm going to utilize these songs that I have, or I'm going to paint. And we had live painters, and like we're very specific on like highlighting areas of Colombia that emphasize the beauty of like Black hair and things that I didn't expect that I would learn about, just came across there. So it was very impactful, and the ability to connect with people through the live stream as we were doing the showcases, throughout the weekend was really significant, because it allowed for people to see New Black City in a different light. We even had some like news coverage where it was, it was a microaggression as far as how we were portrayed as less angry. But to although I didn't really appreciate that type of news coverage. I'm sorry if you hear a cat behind me. But as far as just showing the type of organizing that BLM does in order to convey how important it is everybody get on board. There's something that everybody can contribute. It's not just being on the front lines. Not everybody can do that type of work, but everybody has the potential to make an impact. And the exhibition was just a manifestation of that. So yeah, the live performances were just so great, and a lot of artists got to connect with each other afterwards. So it was just a formulation of friendship and networking, so that these artists are able to have a stronger standing, between each other. Utilizing everybody that they need for support, and to not just be supported, but to also offer support.
That's great. I love that message. Everybody has something to contribute. I think that's so important, especially young people who get intimidated by this kind of work and think they don't have something significant to offer, because we all do, and it takes all of us to do this work. So before we go, I would love to, give you this platform to tell us about where we can see your work, what you have coming up. If there's anything you want to let our audiences know how to find you, please, this is your time.
Yes, so I do event production for underground venue in Hollywood called Church of Fun. If folks would like to come to events that are supporting of people of LGBTQ status, are supportive of people who are, you know, local musicians, and we also utilize this space for activist purposes. You can reach out via Instagram, which is Tynacity.dj, all one word. That's TYNACITY that DJ. And you can come over here and you know, support the events that are happening, perhaps even this weekend. We have shows Friday and Saturday. Apart from that, I have a website, Tynacity.com. Folks can go to soon to be updated with current ongoing new music that I've been finally able to create after such a involved year. 2020 out in the streets, you know. So being able to produce music in this time is it's just it's a renaissance time for Black folks in the creative field.
Sure.
So I'm glad to be a part of it. But yeah, just support local LA venues, and you know, watch Blind Spotting. It was an incredible movie. It's a really incredible TV series. So watch that on the Stars channel. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
Thank you, and we'll put all of that on our social media pages as well, and our website, so people can definitely look to find you. And Phillip, is there anything you want to share, how we can see your work?
Yes, I'm a freelance cinematographer, so you can see some examples of my work on my website, phillipjacksondp.com, Phillip with 2 L's. And then within BLM, in October, we'll have our second year of Black Women Are Divine. It's a BLM LA. Actually, now it's moved on to just outside of LA, but it's nationwide. Just a mini day just to make sure that we are giving all these powerful Black women who have been always behind movements throughout time, just their flowers now and not just after the fact. So we'll be doing an event in LA that will be more information to come, but we'll be just making sure we're giving our flowers to the Black femmes that have been always there for us. So
yeah, absolutely. We're doing a similar thing on the 18th, the day after we do your event. We're doing a special night celebrating Black women wellness providers, and it's just all about wellness in the Black community. So I love that. And Jennifer, is there an exhibit, anything coming up at the Museum of Social Justice that you want to share?
Yeah, next Thursday, September 16th, we're opening a new exhibition called Caravanas del Diablo, that's featuring photographs of the migrant caravans that came up from Central America during 2018 and 2020, and the really violent response from the Mexican government and the US government to those caravans and those migrants. And then, of course, come out to the Fountain Theater on the 17th and support the New Black City artists that'll be selling their works there.
Definitely. Thank you all so much. And yes, even if you're not seeing the show that evening, September 17th, come out. The artists will be there from about 6 o'clock. They'll be showing and selling their work before the show and during intermission. So please come out September 17th to the Fountain Theater. You can check our website for more details and our social media pages. And thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with me. I think the work you're doing is so inspiring and really important. And it really was a privilege to get to speak to you. Thank you so much.
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night.